What is up, everybody? My name is Lex, and you are now watching My Life is a Podcast. And I am looking rough. But yeah, let's just get right into this. What is this, episode number 2 officially? Just right off the gate, thanks to everybody for the support on this new YouTube channel and all of the videos and all that good stuff. It's gonna be like a year or two into this YouTube channel and be like, all right, this is episode number 12. Thanks everybody for my new YouTube channel support. But I just say the same things all the time. So that's just how it is. First, I kind of want to open this one off by apologizing to my former Brand Split family, the Brand Split podcast from back in the day. Shout out to Baca, Brian, Andy, Adrian, Val, anyone who's ever been a part of the Brand Split podcast. But specifically, I want to apologize to Adrian and Andy because in the last podcast that I did right now, or for this YouTube channel, I realized I was like kind of laying low, like pretty close to the mic, and like laughing pretty close to the mic. And I remember it was a big thing back then. It's like, hey Lex, you got to stop, laughing into the mic. You got to like laugh away or something like that. And I would do it, right? I would have every time I'd there'd be like something funny happening. I'd just like try to duck away all fast and laugh away from the mic. But sometimes I can't help it, right? If something's funny, I'm gonna laugh. And every episode would be like, hey, Lex, you gotta you gotta laugh away from the mic. I'm like, I thought I was doing that, but I realized I wasn't when I edited episode 1 of my podcast, my solo one. And man, I didn't realize. So there's like the audio file, and there's like spikes and stuff like that in the sound. And any time I laughed in that last episode, it like spiked all the way like through the laptop and like up into my ceiling, and I literally had to like stop at every single spike and like edit it down, and it took forever. And I just want to apologize to Andy and Adrian. So sorry, guys. Yeah. So what did I want to start off with today? I kind of wanted to start off with just like the world and politics in general. And it's a crazy world out there, because I know the Awkward Side Hug podcast, the podcasts and the content channel that I do with Brian and Steven, we had like an episode like without even wanting to, all we did was kind of talk politics throughout the whole episode. And I don't know, I just kind of wanted to like take a little bit of a side note to start this podcast off of like, the world and politics, and like we're talking about political spins. And it sucks that, like an event happens sometimes and we don't really know what happens or what happened, because something happens and then the right will spin it their direction and the left will spin it their direction, right? So it's kind of like something that happens all the time, and it sucks because things like the George Floyd situation and racism, that isn't a political thing, right? That's like a human rights issue. Like pedophilia isn't a political thing. That's like absolutely wrong, right? And it's crazy because you'll see stuff like people taking a stand and standing up against police brutality, such as like the George Floyd situation. And then the other side will bring up like, oh, but rioting and looting and stuff like that, right? Or something, like the people are fighting for something, for a cause. And then, the other end of the political spectrum will be like, oh, but what about this thing that's been going on for years and years and years, but all of a sudden we decided to care about it now because you guys are fighting for this thing. It's like, it's such a crappy thing, right? Because at the end of the day, you can be anti-racist, you can be anti-pedophilia, you can wear a mask so we can like finally open everything back up. You know what I mean? You can do like all of these things at the same time. It doesn't have to be like one or the other. You know what I mean? yeah, it's crazy, man. Like I was thinking, just be a good person. You know what I mean? Like it's that simple. I feel like, but politics definitely complicates things, for sure. But yeah, it's unfortunate, man, because I would like to just be like, yo, it's that simple. Just be a good person. But at the same time, there are like a lot of like not even controversial issues, but like hotly debated topics sometimes. And in those cases, sometimes we just need to meet some sort of common ground or a compromise. You know what I mean? We gotta sort of, like, cause like for example, like Trump. Let's face it, these past 4 years have been like some of like the biggest divide between two parties, like of all time. Um, that's probably not a fact, but it feels like it. Don't quote me. But yeah, man, it's crazy. Like we went into like detail like on the Awkward Side Hug podcast if you kind of want to like watch that first and then come back and like pick up from here. But one thing, like one issue, for example, that I was thinking about is sort of like the COVID, coronavirus pandemic issue and how like the U.S. is handling it poorly, right? Because other countries in the world are already like some are already back to like full stadium sporting events, right? Um, and a lot of countries are also trending in the right direction now. Even a lot of states, some states in America are trending in the right direction, right? Sorry, I just turned back to like 13 years old. All of a sudden, I'm in middle school with that voice crack. But yeah, so states like California and Florida and like Texas and Arizona, like we're going through huge spikes, right? And it's crazy because like like one side of the political spectrum is like send the kids back to school, and the other side of the political spectrum is like, yo, bro, chill, let's go online for at least another semester or two, and then when it's a little more safer. But yeah, I guess they're gonna hate you if you do. They're gonna hate you if you don't, because the California governor, Gavin Newsom, all of a sudden all types of people are coming out like, oh, recall, Gavin, he's doing a crappy job because he's closing everything down again, right? Businesses, economy. But then you also got like the Florida governor, like DeSantis or whatever. He's just like, you know what, open everything and let's have everyone get COVID and like die. So it's like, bro, like you can't win as a governor like during the global pandemic. And so like one thing I was thinking of is like, so Gavin, for example, like the state I live in, California, yeah, he probably hasn't handled it the best, but I feel like personally, right, if we would have just waited the entire month of July and then maybe started doing the reopen phases, that would have been probably we would have been much better off, I feel like, because I remember at the beginning of July, around that area, like late June, Gavin probably started feeling like the pressure from like these like Orange County type of cities, right? Where everyone's like, oh, open everything back up now. And he probably felt the pressure. He's just like, all right, we're going to try to start the reopening phases. We reopened too early. Now we're closing it, right? So yeah, we can't really do anything about that now. But I feel like where he might be slipping is that he sort of closed it back down and there's sort of like no indication or plan to reopen. I feel like what we can do right now, like for example, like a good compromise is like, you know what, let's send the kids to school online for at least one more semester, right? At least through like December. And I say like California or Gavin should make a plan where like, hey, we're all just going to stay on this straight up lockdown for at least one more month. And then in September, whether it's beginning of September, mid-September, maybe start phase 1 back up, right? And make the phases last a little longer. So at least you could give the people, like, for example, the right, because obviously the right, conservatives and stuff are the people who are like bashing Gavin. So at least you could give the conservatives something to look forward to. Okay, on this date, we plan phase 1. On that date, phase 2 is going to. So I feel like there could be a little bit better of handling that way, and that could possibly be like a compromise. It's kind of the best of both worlds, because like I said, it's crazy. At the end of the day, you can't really win whether you're California or Florida. Like, California, like, oh, you're killing our economy. Florida, it's like, oh, you're literally killing lives. So it's crazy. It's crazy out there. And then like politics in general is just, it's kind of crappy that we can't just really get like straight up unbiased news, that the left has the, political spins and the right has the political spins. But at the end of the day, you got to realize not everything is political. Sometimes some things are human rights issues, and other times maybe you do have to compromise on hotly debated issues. But that was just like an example of what I feel like should be something that the governor should do right now, is sort of like post a plan where like with actual solid dates. That way it's sort of a compromise. But politics is crazy. I mean, I'm just a college student, so what do I know? Yeah, you guys should really definitely check out that Awkward Side Hug podcast episode, by the way. We're just walling out, but we also did talk about a lot of politics. Man, yeah, speaking of college, I'm starting my master's program in like a week. That is trippy. I'm excited. I'm like stoked. I'm recharged. I'm happy. It's been a long journey with this whole education, thing for me, because if I could kind of tell like the long form story of like me and education, and when I realized when I was finally motivated, because like back in high school, we'll start in high school, I would always get horrible grades. I was never motivated, like whether it was college or my first, college attempts, or my first college attempts, or high school. I was always unmotivated, and I would rather be doing something different. So whether in high school, I was always like, oh, I'd rather just be training for the wrestling season, or I'd rather just be hanging out with the boys, or like, training for cross country or track and field, right? My early college attempts, I would always rather, I would rather just go to this poetry open mic this day, or I'd rather attend this local hip hop show, or I'd rather be preparing for my rap battle coming up, right? There was always something I would rather be doing instead of education. So like I always thought I was just like not smart or an idiot, but I realized like looking back, I was just never motivated. And I remember sort of when all that switched, right? Like the switch flipped for me, because before that, like for high school and my first college attempts, I was only really going to school for my parents, right? And that's always like a very bad thing. That's never going to work out. If you're going to school for somebody else, whether it's like your parents or, like somebody else, right? Like really the only possible way that could work out is if you're going to school for your children, right? To maybe try to set a good example, or maybe just to make more money for them and for the family. That might work out, because at the very least, that's your motivation. Your children are your motivation, or your family is your motivation, or money's your motivation. At the very least, you have a motivation, right? But when you're young, right out of high school, and you're just going to college for your parents, that's where it's not going to work. And that's why I think that's also a big reason why all of my high school bad grades was a thing. I had to take like an after school ROP class just to pass high school, like just to graduate. That's why I failed so many classes. Like I maybe got a couple of C's and maybe one B ever in my first college attempts. Just because I was doing it for someone else. I didn't really care, right? There's always something else I'd rather be doing. But I do remember the moment all that switched for me. And I talked a little bit about it in one of the earlier podcast episodes, but I didn't really get into great detail. I was living on my own. I think I was like maybe 25 years old. Or I was, like me and Brian had moved out. We got a 2-bedroom apartment in downtown Pomona. 25 years old. I had already had my like highest job position at the time that I've had, which is like store manager of a gas station. So it was, it was better than most of my wages I've ever had, right? So I was like, that's pretty cool. Like it was good enough for me to move out on, right? And like live comfortably. And I remember I got the job, we moved out, and we were like a few months in, and this is around the time where I took my longest break away from college, like almost like a year, or like over a year for sure. And I remember at this store manager job, it was always sort of the same thing every day. So you would wake up, you go to work, I go to my office, I get all the forms and paperwork from the cashiers from the day before, I input it into this data spreadsheet, doing the morning daily paperwork is just calculating all the numbers, making sure our registers came out even, entering all the data of how much we sold, yada, yada, right? And then I would have to fax that. I would print it out, fax that in daily before 9 a.m. to the home office in the LA area. And then I would walk around the store, just make sure everything's good and clean. And I would order from the vendors, right? Like the Coca-Cola, the Pepsi vendors, the Monster vendors, the candy bars, cigarettes, all that stuff, right? On their certain days that they come in. And I would just handle any possible issues that would arise. But literally, that's the same thing every single day, right? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then I came in on Saturdays for a few hours to do the same thing. Paperwork, blah, blah, blah. And I was already 2.5 years into this store manager position. And I remember one morning, it had to have been a Friday or a Saturday morning. I walked into work, I went to my office, and I did the morning paperwork. And halfway through the morning paperwork, it just kind of hit me and I realized, I don't want to be doing this for the rest of my life. And it was such a crazy feeling, right? Because you hear other people's stories about that type of stuff, that moment where the switch just gets turned on finally. And that was sort of my moment, right? And because I remember, the only position in that company to go up was just the area supervisor position above that, which you manage several stores or several store managers, I guess. But since, from cashier to manager, it was literally $1 raise, dude. And it was bad. It wasn't that big of a raise. So I imagine from manager to area supervisor wouldn't be that much of an increase either. And I realized, dude, I do not want to be 30, 40, 50 years old still being a store manager or at best an area supervisor in a company. And that's it, right? That's sort of the height of it. And you literally just do the same single thing every single day. And I didn't want to, it borderline gave me anxiety. I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to go back to school. I want to do something I love. And then that's when I finally decided to go back to school for the last time. And man, first semester I got an A. And then it was just A's and B's ever since. I think I only got 2 C's, 3 C's over the past 4.5 years. Made it to Cal Poly Pomona, a 4-year university. Because I remember in high school when I was getting those bad grades, you would see your friends, right? Sort of oh yeah, I got accepted to Cal State Fullerton. Oh, I got accepted to out of state, this or that, right? And then I was like, man, I'm never going to attend a 4-year university, right? And sure enough, here I am, a week out from attending graduate school. And that is wild. And all thanks to that sort of moment where it switched on for me, that one day I was doing paperwork because I decided to finally do something I love. So, moral of the story, find out what you love or what you want to do and do it. Do all the steps to get to that place, because that's sort of where I'm at, and I'm super happy. I can't wait. So yeah, I believe that's all I got for you today. This was My Life as a Podcast, episode 2, and thank you guys for watching and supporting. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.